Saints Row 4, you're the President of the United States. You have superpowers, which are incredibly fun but can result in a lack of challenge at times, and the soundtrack is awesome. With the real review out of the way, let's get into a little more detail for those who are still into that sort of thing. I have a feeling though that this might be a short one, as I've pretty much said everything in the first sentence. Oh, and while I try to keep my reviews as spoiler-free as possible, there might be some, so, look out. First up, let's talk about the story. After spending a couple of days customizing your character in the absurdly expansive character creation tool, which is almost worth the price of the game on its own, Mr. or Madam President is thrown into a simulation of Steelport, which makes a return from Saints Row 3. Without giving too much away, this is as a result of an alien invasion, which takes place at the start. Did I mention you play the President? Yeah. Since Saints Row the 3rd, the 3rd Street Saints have advanced from being a street gang to being a political party. Long story short, the President and a few other characters set out to exact their revenge for Earth. As you might have guessed from the character I so artfully designed, this game is pretty ridiculous in every way imaginable, but in a good way, and that doesn't omit the story. It's funny, very funny, to me at least. Humour is a very subjective thing, so I'm making no guarantees. But the references, breakings of the fourth wall, self-deprecation, and all manner of other humorous bits and bobs makes for a very entertaining bit of entertainment. I can't think of a funnier game I've played this year, and possibly last year as well. As well as that, during the character creation stages, you can choose from 7 different voices, which don't only change the character voice, but their personality as well. Hundreds of changes to the script are made for each voice, and I found the obsessive attention to detail, like the British voice which I used, making use of lots of British slang words, very impressive. Oh, and scattered throughout the story are a selection of 80s and 90s pop songs. That's always funny, right? Now, the gameplay. I mentioned before that the game takes place in a simulation of Steelport. Well, that opens up whole new opportunities for gameplay, and the developers have definitely taken advantage of it. Basically, think of the Matrix. That's pretty much how it works. With the help of Kinsey Kensington, your computer savant sidekick, you're able to break the simulation and endow yourself with superpowers. In the large open world that is virtual Steelport, this makes Saints Row 4 a totally different game from its predecessors. The abilities to dive through the windows and surf on the roofs of cars, for which Saints Row the 3rd was so well known, seem like such trifling little things compared to what you can do in 4. Various upgradable powers allow you to jump higher than most of the game's buildings, run faster than most any vehicle, shoot fireballs from your hands, lift people, cars, tanks, and pretty much anything that isn't nailed down with telekinesis, fly across the city, and ultimately turn yourself into a godlike entity feared by all. In a fairly well-detailed open world like Steelport, this does bring a tremendous feeling of liberation, especially when compared to similar open-world games. On top of that, it also brings a whole new dimension to the game's combat. Combining the many powers with which you're provided with a fair number of conventional and alien guns that are available makes for some damn enjoyable fights. Getting overwhelmed by enemies? Well, freeze them all and slam into them from 200 feet above. Big, huge alien boss monster giving you a bit of jip? Well, throw a tank at them. I never really got bored of the fighting. This makes it all the worse on the odd occasion that the story decides to drag you out of the simulation and into the real world, where of course your powers are non-existent. You're just another bullet sponge with a selection of mostly middle-of-the-road guns, although there are some exceptions, such as the dubstep gun. I didn't feel this was a really big problem, but it was a little jarring and kind of frustrating. Rest assured though, they do find a way of giving you your powers in the real world for the final boss fight. Mission variety was a bit of a weak point for me. While the cutscenes are all terribly fun with the good writing and funniness that I mentioned before, a fair number of the missions consisted of going to a place, killing some dudes, and capturing an objective, then possibly moving on to do the same thing on other objectives 2 or 3 more times. It got, on occasion, somewhat repetitive, although it does reference this with some fourth wall breaking humour which I can appreciate. On other occasions though, the missions had an excellent amount of variety. Some even turned the game into a completely different game, such as a mission which took place in a 16-bit side-scrolling beat-em-up. On the whole, mission variety was fine, but yeah, did get a little repetitive at times. Outside of the main story, there are a selection of diversions to take part in throughout the open world. These include things like races on foot using your super sprint ability, and expeditions to the top of huge alien towers, one of the few constructs in the game you can't reach the top of in one leap. While these are fun at first, they get old pretty fast, and I can't say I felt they added much to the game. It's nice that they're in there for flavour, and I don't doubt some people will enjoy trying to beat their own time or score in the challenged versions, but it wasn't really for me. Oh, and there's also co-op, which allows you to bring a friend or three along to kill some aliens with you, and do other challenges and other diversions and stuff. It's fun. As far as story and gameplay go, I thought Saints Row 4 was great. Any console gamers watching can stop right now. We're about to get technical for people playing on PC. Graphically, Saints Row 4 does nothing special. It's got some nice lighting effects going on occasionally and the animation's good, but on the other hand, texture resolution really is not good at all, and polygon count was pretty low in places as well. Let's just say this wouldn't pass as a next-gen game. On the plus side though, this does mean it runs quite well. My PC is nothing special. A GTX 670 is my graphics card, I've got 6 gigs of RAM and a Core i7-970 processor, and most of the time, at maximum settings with 4x MSAA, at full HD I was able to get 60 frames per second. The lowest it ever dropped to was around 45, and that was usually when I was flying high over the city, so it had quite a lot to render. It also comes equipped with a pretty good options menu. You get 4 graphics presets, as well as the ability to customize the options as much as you like. I didn't get a chance to test the game on a less powerful PC, but I'd imagine, judging from how it looked on the lowest settings, that it'd run okay on pretty much anything with a discrete graphics card. A good PC port, aside from the textures. I'm about done here. Buy Saints Row 4, what else can I say? Oh, of course, the plug! You can pick it up for a somewhat reduced price at gamingdragons.com.
Do a barrel roll!
Spin this shit!